when you're thinking of doing something back home, it's important that you are connected to that industry or sector. If you aren't, find out, do research. There's YouTube, there's books, so you can learn new skills or learn more about different business ideas, but just be sure that you know it in and out and be ready to be
Yes.
in the middle of everything with everybody. You can't start something and be away and expect it to be successful because
To
you're not
flourish.
there.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
there.
Ousman, you know so much. Tell me anything you think I don't know. If I know it, I'll tell you, okay, please try again. But if I don't, I'll admit to it. Do you have something for me?
The first thing that comes to mind is geography question. It's very weird.
Okay.
Uh, do you know the closest capitals in Africa? So the two capital cities that are like,
Yes. 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 That I know. Okay, that I think I know because again, a couple of episodes ago, I had somebody from Brazzaville
yeah,
who told me that they across that Congo River, Brazzaville and Kinshasa, I can't remember the distance anymore. So this is what I don't know. Maybe you know,
I think it's
but
200 meters, but they are the closest capitals in the world. Yeah.
these big cities that are facing each other across a river, so similar yet different because they're two different countries. I find that super fascinating. Let's talk about that a little bit. You've walked in that neck of the woods, and you're still going there a lot. Between those two cities, what have you seen in these grand, spectacles of our continent, Brazzaville and
It's
Kinshasa?
it's very similar to Senegal and Gambia. It's
Okay.
the same people, similar, same
Yes.
names.
Yeah.
They both speak Lingala. Both
Lingala. Yeah.
they speak Lingala. So they were just separated by those,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they were one people and they could cross freely. They're pretty much the same, and interestingly, even Congo Brazza and Gabon as well, the
Yes.
same people, the same families across, so, and then
Yes.
Gabon, Equator, so everywhere is connected. You have the Congo border with
Yes.
Tanzania; they
Yes.
speak Swahili.
Yes.
There's Rwanda, the Goma border.
Amazing.
It's the
Amazing.
same. It's very close.
Every border in Africa seeps into the next one because it's almost as if the people that live there at the border don't even see those borders
No, no,
because
no.
it's the same people,
Mhm.
right? It's the same person's backyard that's already crossing into the other country. It's fascinating how our borders look like. My parents come from a border village, Dasilame. It's right at the edge of Casamance, right? And I remember growing up going there and seeing at the border, literally at this imaginary border that is set up there, like people that live across that border that do everything that's Islamic, which is Gambia. So they're supposed to be in Casamance. But those people grow up knowing like everything that is Gambia, from school to everything that they do. If those people grow up and now they become professionals, right? They all they know is English, even though they're quote unquote Senegalese. You see what I'm saying? So I can imagine, and this is just Gambia and Senegal where, these are same. Like if you go to countries that have about 4 or 5 borders of different countries, you can only imagine the cultures on these imaginary lands. That is where I want to actually go. Thank you for setting me up for this as we go to the next segment here. Uh, um, I'm thinking about Africa in just the last 50 years. And the reason why I'm choosing like half a century is where almost every country in Africa got their independence in at least the last 50, except a few, right? You're a thinking man. If I was to put you on the spot and say, today, just in the last half century, last 50 years, where we are today as Africa, as a continent, whether, we've progressed or whether we've been stagnant or whether it's slow progress, whatever it is that you describe as far as you see it, will you attribute that more to what colonization has done and affected, or leadership? If I was to put you on the spot and say these are the only two options you have, and you have that 100% percentage, what will you give to colonization and what will you give to our leadership as far as where we are right now?
I will 105% say leadership, and I'll tell you why.
Tell me, please.
Because I use Rwanda as an example. After colonization, after the country was completely, like, they went back to zero or minus, and you look at where Rwanda is now, it's because it was built, rebuilt, and went past other countries that have never had any conflict in their life by a visionary leader.
Wow. Usmani, so love this man. When I thought about that question, because it's important, because I've heard a lot of people say this. A lot of people are still, blaming. Blaming is the word I'm actually choosing here. They're blaming colonization and how much it has taken away from us. That same example that you've given is what I thought about, because I'm beginning to study Rwanda, where they came from, 1 million people just wiped, genocide, the people living right now, still border countries around Rwanda still has Rwandese that wouldn't even go back, just the trauma. A country that has lost its human resource, all of them left. Rwanda reinvented themselves, even language that they speak, even, switching an entire country's official language, speaking English. To have a leader like that who is thinking about that country, and like they're talking about the capital and just how it's structured, and, a day off for cleaning, like just all these amazing things about the country that has put it, like a century ahead of a lot of African countries that have never even had a conflict of that magnitude. Leadership. You gave the entire 100% to leadership. Let's put aside, let's maybe not forget, but let's put colonization behind us and be responsible for where we are.
Exactly.
Thank you for that answer.
Yeah.
Thank you for that answer. Way in the beginning, you mentioned being a family man. You have an amazing son, that you're helping raise with a wonderful wife, and like you, born in the UK of Gambian parents. And right now, at this day and age, we think about our kids. We think about, can you imagine, like, when I met you, did we even think about actually having to think about another human being as far as like our personal responsibility without an excuse, right? When you think about raising him and still having this connection that's important to you as an African, he's born in the UK. This is partly me cheating right here for myself and everybody else that has a son. How do you still get them, have everything they need to tap into to compete in the world, which sometimes or mostly they get from a place that is more competitive, like the Western stuff, and still be connected to homes, a place that we are proud of, a place we want them to have, that core upbringing from? How do you navigate that?
So I've used the word example millions of times.
Love it, because that's how you teach. You
I
like to
think
give
you
examples.
teach by examples, and exposure is, or experience is, the biggest teacher. And they don't. I wouldn't say you'd necessarily have to keep them in, Africa for a long time, but expose them to the different parts, the good and the very bad. Show them everything. Show them where your roots are from, the village, show them everything. Help them appreciate life. There's this story I'll share. I think it's
Yes.
from ancient Arabic history, where the rich men, they used to take their kids to the less privileged areas. I think it was for 3 months or something, and they
Mm.
had this special camp where they'll be taught about humility, culture, and it
Mm-hmm.
humbled them. It gave them an
Mm.
experience. So when they came
Mm.
back into the, you know, city,
Yes.
they came back a different person. So if you just show them one side, they'll never see the other side. They don't know about the other side. So
Mm.
give them, expose them. Traveling is one of the best things you could ever do. You travel, see the world,
Yes.
meet different people, understand how they think. You know, in some places, even a hand gesture could mean something very, very bad. So,
Yes.
you know, those little things,
Yes.
and it helps with your development in the future. If you meet someone tomorrow and they say, "Hey, where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Ghana," and you say, "Hey, Akwaba,"
Mm-hmm.
or they say, "Oh, I'm from Congo," and you say, "Mbote, Mwana Mboka," and
Uh-huh.
they're like, "Ah, so you know," and so immediately when you ask them for something,
Yes.
they're like,
Yes.
"Yeah, this
Of
guy
course. Yes.
is
Yes.
he knows me, he knows." Or
Yes.
you say something
Yes.
about some
Yes.
street
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Kinshasa, or
Yeah.
you know. So these kids, just load them with experience.
Load them
uh,
with experience.
yeah, show them the very best, the very worst, and prepare them for the darker side. You know, people, not everyone's
Mm.
friendly, not everyone is
Right. Right.
gonna
Right.
be
Right.
trustworthy. Some
Right.
people will let you down,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to
Mm-hmm.
be prepared for
Mm-hmm.
that part as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you said that. And this is, in our day and age, this is not only limited to, actually even being able to travel. If you're able to do it, if you're not able to, still don't have an excuse, right? Because in this day and age of just information and data and reach, right? Show them, make sure they see it, make sure they are aware of it, make sure you're talking about it, make sure this is something they're exposed to, right? Whichever medium they use, in knowing that there's another world out there, so different from, whatever it is that is they're privileged to be around. And hopefully you're able to take them there in person. um Smart, this is fascinating. Let's talk about our continent again, just like we are. Many a times I've heard people come here, and I always want to ask them, and some of this you've touched on already, where you want people to work on self and work on in their family. But what are the kind of things that you think about when it comes to all the work that needs to be done? You know, as people here in the diaspora, connecting to people at home that have not made it out yet. What is the work that needs to be done so that in showing that example, an African can be home and they know, all right, you want to go out there and explore the world? Yes, still have that as a determination, have that as a goal for yourself. But whilst you're in the continent, look around you, you're missing out on, opportunity and potential. How can you hammer that nail?
I think it goes back to the empowerment part and giving people the information and the role models
Mm.
that they need. So if someone in your neighborhood, they say, "Oh, Mikey, you see, he hasn't even traveled, but now he has a big farm and he's a millionaire," you know. And look at Salu. Oh, now he was a mechanic. Now he has a big mechanics shop, and he's a millionaire, and he hasn't even traveled. Salu can go and visit his family on holiday and come back.
Yes.
So the information, the tools, and also the system,
Yes.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
access to banking, access to the right
Mm.
finance,
Mm.
making it easy for people to register businesses, uh, giving free courses for people on, business plans, free support. So it goes hand in hand with, everything. It's like an ecosystem that needs to be
Mm.
built. And
Mm.
sometimes successful people do it themselves, and they start incubators and accelerators back home that help
Right.
other people, and they have these competitions where they fund, the winning startups. So
Right.
it's more about just, and when these guys are successful, they won't even think about traveling, because the main goal of, they would travel to explore and visit, which is perfect. They still have that exposure, but to work, nah.
Right.
No, no,
It-
no,
it-
no, no.
there's this amazing Senegalese woman I listened to, Margaret Wad, who's an entrepreneur, like based here, somewhere here in Austin, but still connected to Senegal in a major way, doing business, right? And talking, she's even on TED Talk. People should look her up. Had this very famous interview with Jordan Peterson not long ago, where she was talking about colonization and how we should not even be talking about colonization anymore. Let's put it behind us. And she got a lot of flag for that, but I'm fully backing her for the record. And she said something that you just mentioned that I found fascinating because I didn't know about. She put the difference between economic opportunity and financial opportunity. And in putting that disparity, or wedging those two, where financial opportunity, financial freedom is actually individual and being able to say, okay, I have the money to do whatever I want to do. And the economic side is beyond the person. That's when she started talking about how Africa, where they fall in that business index, like how friendly or how open a country is, to people being able to have startups, how the tax system works, how systems are placed so that people will succeed in business. It was fascinating hearing that because I didn't know how, like, I've never set up an individual business in Africa. I've been involved in setting up something that's communal, but so I never got to the like nitty gritty, right? And the challenge, and this is where leadership comes. The challenge people are having in the ease to entry to be a business person has to come from the people that set these
Yeah,
systems in place, the structure.
agreed. Yeah.
Our leaders, from presidents to governments, need to, need to set up Africa such that business is something that entrepreneurship is something that the youth learn and know that, it's easy 5 steps, or maybe let me put easy aside, but there's a known 5 steps or 10 steps that you do in order to set up your business right. And the rest is left to the individuals. And these are the parts that we are lacking. There's no question there. I just wanted to express that. That brings somebody that I spoke to here, Yassine from Burkina Faso. Not long ago, I spoke to her. She told me this thing, Osman, that she works for an organization that works with empowering, the youth, right, or the people that are kind of like left behind between Africa and South America, and all the other places. She revealed to us here that for what they do, or there's a side of what they do, where when they're empowering those people, whether it's people they're trying to put back in society, in other places they go through education because they know there's systems in place where once those people get that education or that training, that retraining. So this is not education broadly in the broad sense, but that training in order to get back in the workforce, they know those jobs are waiting. In Africa, they do it differently because people can be trained and still not find the jobs. And so they've shifted their focus on training them to become business people, to set up something of their own where they can make their money because they see all the potential in Africa when it comes to actually servicing people and getting something from it. When she talked about farming, I had my jaw wide open. Have you seen the farming opportunity, the agricultural side of just, Africa, and how there's so much there that people are demanding, but the supply is not actually met?
Of course, of
Yes,
course.
I knew it.
In in general, like you rightly said, colonization, yes, it's happened. Robbery, it's happened, but we
Mhm.
still have enough. There's still a lot more left
Right.
that nobody can take or hasn't even taken yet.
Right.
And as soon as we take control,
Take
agriculture,
control.
access to fertile land, that's gold. Using
Yes.
the land is left, people are shifting into the cities because they don't see the value of that fertile land. But then also, like you said, the storage facilities, the transportation, the channels for selling the stuff
Mm.
when it's done. So
Mm.
everything goes hand in hand. And when someone, we see many cases where people have tons of waste because they've had a really good harvest and it's stuck. It's stuck.
Yes.
There's no
Yes.
channel to export,
Yes.
and they're importing the same
Yes.
thing that they could have grown. So, but this is agriculture is another
It's another
big
beast to talk
beast.
about. Yes.
So
Yes.
this
Yes.
is, but
Yes.
that is, it could stabilize each country, could feed its
Mm.
own, feed itself, less foreign exchange needed, less, it's more export, more foreign exchange. It's,
It's endless. This is where this is what you talked about earlier in leadership, in giving
yeah,
105%, to blame, maybe not blame, a responsibility of our leaders, to get us where we need to get to, and those are the kind of things that I think about when it comes to our continent, right? Where, okay, all right, we can have that fertile land, we can have, agriculture can be tapped into, but there are things that go beyond that individual actually taking advantage of that fertile land, right? Yasin gave the example of tomatoes, right? If there's the back and forth, they said tomatoes are a fruit or vegetable. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, if there is one fruit or vegetable that is just more prone to, like, spoilage and getting rotten without preservatives, is tomatoes, right? So
yeah,
it's produced in abundance, and people don't have the infrastructure in place, the channels, right, to deal with tomatoes the way they need to be dealt with. And this is just an example that I'm giving. You cannot now give that farmer or that person who is tapping into that opportunity the responsibility of growing it and taking care of it and actually harvesting it, ready to feed it to the market, and give them the responsibility to have the infrastructure in place to take it from place one to place A to B, right? So that is where leadership comes. What do our governments and leaders have in place to actually help facilitate these things that can bring progress and have more people, go into agriculture and actually sustain themselves and help themselves, and not depend on the government giving them a job where you're sitting behind a desk, where you're driving a half hour to an hour to 3 hours of just land that's sitting there waiting to be touched. Osmani, our continent, when I think about it, and when I have people come here, they talk about all kind of opportunities and all kind of things to tap into, and the human resource side comes, is always mentioned. I keep hearing this stat about, 20 by 2050, us having more, like, our population growing, apart from that, having more youthful human resource than anywhere in the world, meaning we will have a lot more people in Africa, on the continent itself, right? Just ready to give an input, ready to make something happen, you know. And I'm afraid that, we'll have all these people just ready to make it happen, and everything else would meet up to them, so that, a good explosion will happen as far as, like, bringing stuff. You're an optimist. I know that, right? Matter of fact, happy birthday. Last night when you went to bed, it was your birthday, right?
thank you. Yeah.
As a liberal, you're an optimist. That's just you. Is ingrained in you. When you think about Africa, where do you see the continent? Where do you hope to see the continent in our lifetime? And where do you think it realistically will be in our lifetime?
Very good question. So, and a tough one as well. So, where I
It's
want
a
it
tough
to
one.
be, I think, um, tons more good leaders. I'm hoping, tons more good leaders, tons more visionaries, tons more of Kagamis and other people in their own special way. You don't have to
Right.
be like him, but
Yeah.
have your own vision that benefits your people, with a strong team. And I think, you know, even though things are still challenging and tough, we have more people considering going back home now. More people returned, more people, even in America, there are many, many, many
Returnees. Yeah.
African Americans and people from the Caribbean moving to Africa, Ghana,
A
Senegal,
lot.
Gambia has loads. So this is a good thing, and hopefully we'll see an Africa where it's more self-sufficient. There's more connectivity between the continent, more trade, more partnerships within ourselves as well, easier travel within the continent as well. This is being very, very ambitious, but even if you bring it down to 50%, it's still good.
Yes. That's
So
actually
it's
still, yeah,
still,
movement.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and we have this, the startup boom in Africa is growing, and there are many, many successful people now, hundreds of businesses. Some have been bought by bigger corporations. It's still, good.
Yes.
um, there are just some areas, it balances itself out, because there's some countries doing really well, there's some like at the bottom, there's some in between. So we just have to lift everyone to be on the same level, which is the hope.
Which is the whole part. Usmani, we come from that kind of continent. We can't live without that whole part of it. We have to hope that this is something we can do. We have to obviously do our part. We can't just sit back and you just mentioned. I just want to give you that opportunity, knowing that you've been doing a lot in the continent. I want to give you the opportunity to mention, what you've been up to as far as our continent, because you're somebody that is not talking about it. You're also doing your part. What are you doing in our continent as far as, like, playing your part?
So to summarize, we are looking to build communities, because as you said, the population by 2050
Yeah.
will be huge. There will be a bigger need for housing, hospitals, schools. It means a bigger demand for infrastructure to go with that growth. Now, the problem we have is currently the construction industry is damaging our environment as well, very much so. Carbon emissions, climate change, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way we are building, the way we're developing is harmful. We have a problem of unemployment, economic stress, society, slums, meaning, health risk, security risk. So what we will do is we will be building communities by the community, with materials from the community, managed by the community. So there's a circle, an ecosystem within a certain area
Ecosystem.
where everything that's been used to build the community, the whole system in which the community will live or thrive, will come from that community. You do not need to bring anything ship anything, fly anything in.
Italy and Brazil. Yeah.
It's all there. That all adds up to emissions and stuff. Your water is harvested, your energy comes from the sun, your food comes from where you live. It means healthier lives, less people need to get sick. So in a nutshell, communities built by the community, managed by the community, all over Africa. It's not just from Gambia, for Gambia, everywhere.
Talk about visionary. Talk about somebody that actually is a thinker. Talk about somebody who plans things through. This is how I know that is going to come, that's going to happen, that's going to be done. Because I know who I'm speaking to, and I can't wait to showcase what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're going to actually bring to our continent. Ousmane, thank you for your time. This has been amazing, and I hope this is just part one, because I can't wait to show what it is that you're doing.
Yes, we'll see again. We will. We'll have some. We need a part two. Thank you.
Amazing.